Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome back to my channel. On this video, I'm going to be showing you how I welded the base to this farmhouse table. Check it out. I have 3 siblings, they all have spouses and a bunch of children. And so we wanted a table that could fit all 16 of our extended family on one table. We looked at the possibility of buying a table, but nothing actually was big enough for what we needed. One of my favorite things about this table is that it's extendable. Reach under, pull the wing out, place the wing top on here, screw it in from underneath, you got a longer table. Now this table was built in partnership with my dad, my brother, and my sister-in-law. My dad built the top and the wings, and my sister-in-law and my brother, they finished the table. And then it was my job to do the metal base. Fortunately, I had just finished my intro to welding class, and I just figured it was time to tackle something big. So check it out, here's how I made the base for this farmhouse table. The first step is to design the table in Fusion 360. Once I have it locked in, I figure out my dimensions. I use a website called OptiCutter to figure out all the cuts I need from the raw stock. It's a really useful tool. My original intention was to cut this 12-gauge 2-inch steel tubing with my Harbor Freight abrasive saw. On the first cut, it became apparent this wasn't going to work at all. It took forever to get through one cut. And then when I tried to cut at 45 degrees, the accuracy just wasn't there. I tried my DeWalt portable bandsaw, but again, I couldn't figure out how to get an accurate 45-degree cut. After a bit of research, I decided to purchase an Evolution 14-inch metal cutting chop saw with a carbide tipped blade, and it got the job done. I'm very happy with this thing. Before I tackled the big table, I wanted to start small, so I worked on a short bench that goes with the table. This way I could make sure I had the whole process down before moving on to the bigger pieces. Once I had all the cuts for the bench complete, I wiped down all the pieces with acetone to remove the grease and grime. Then I grinded a chamfer on all the surfaces that I would be welding. Next step was to drill and tap holes for the leveling feet. The 12-gauge steel was just thick enough to allow me to tap a decent thread. Then I was ready to start welding. I'm using this welding table that I haven't used before, and it's got these holes that are really handy. I've seen people on YouTube use these holes to have little plugs that will allow you to kind of make sure you're square. So what I think I'm gonna do is go over to my CNC lathe and cut some plugs to go in these holes. It's very easy to program the dimensions in the conversational interface on my lathe. The whole process took me about 10 minutes to create 4 bench dogs. Here we go. This is my first time MIG welding a project in my home shop. I'm using 7525 argon and CO2 gas. Up to this point, I'd only fabricated with a flux core machine that doesn't require gas, and I have to say, I love not having to chip and wire brush each of my welds. MIG is so much easier. I was nervous to dive into MIG because of the gas tank, but with proper safety precautions, it's not really a big deal like I thought it was. Unfortunately, this little Harbor Freight welding table just isn't big enough for bigger projects like this. One day I'd love a giant welding table, but for now, I just have to make do with this guy. I give it a primer coat and then a few coats of flat black, and it's ready to be attached to the wooden top with lag screws. That's it, the first piece was done, and I had figured out my process. I start cutting the pieces to make 2 of the rectangles that I'm calling the table legs, and do the same process, preparing to weld. Because I don't have a big enough table, I have to weld on the floor, and I use these magnets to help keep it square. They work, but I'm sure more experienced welders probably have better ways to do this. Leave a comment if you have suggestions. I tack the joints in place front and back before laying a full bead just in case it moves out of alignment. I love the look of these 45-degree joints after grinding them down. Next, I measure the length between the 2 sides and cut cross pieces for the table legs. It always freaks me out when my GoPro pans on its own. It must be some setting, but I like to think that it's some kind of ghost cameraman helping me frame the shot correctly. There he goes again. My design calls for these tabs to be welded at various places. This allows the different parts of the table base to be attached together, and for the base as a whole to be attached to the wood tabletop. I want to take a moment to mention the YouTube channel I have learned the most from when it comes to welding, Jimbo's Garage. Look him up, he makes some really great content. With the major pieces of the table base complete, I assembled it with clamps and used a paint marker to mark the holes that needed to be drilled and tapped. My brother-in-law Ben helped me hold the heavy pieces flat on the drill press table. I couldn't have done it without him. Then I tapped each hole. Now I could assemble the table for the first time with bolts. My nephew and niece were excited to help me do this. I loved their enthusiasm to help out. The next piece to create was what I like to call the basket. It's two flat bars that hold the wood table wings while not in use. The time had come to work on the part of the table that was most concerning to me, the wings. I'm not an engineer, so I wasn't sure if the design I had worked out was actually going to work. I made tabs that would keep the wings from pulling out past a certain point when extended. My dad helped me flip the table over so I could align the wings to the legs and top, and then I welded them. Okay, I'm testing out the wings, see if they're actually going to work. Once the spacing and functionality was figured out, I welded the wing brackets into place and the table base was complete. Before I could move on to painting, I needed to make one more bench. This one was 8 feet long. It was basically the same process as the short bench, though welding the long pieces to the rectangles proved a little difficult, but I got it done pretty quickly. Finally, time to paint. This was my least favorite step in the build. The sheer weight of each piece just made the whole process awkward and difficult. I used spray paint. I'm not sure if that was the best choice for this project. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have used white primer. Black would have helped hide any minor dings and scratches. So this table took several weeks of my time, from the cutting the metal to the welding to the grinding and the painting. It was a big undertaking. I feel like this table is like my graduation project. I actually now know a lot more about welding and about building with larger pieces of metal. I'm really happy that we now have a spot for the whole family to come and enjoy Thanksgiving together and other family gatherings. I mean, who am I kidding? We get together all the time, so it's not gonna just be Thanksgiving. I think we're all super happy and excited to use this for years to come. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram @JeremiahDaws, and I'll see you on the next video. It's so stable.